Kicking it off with a Fox News alert, President Obama laying out his plan to overhaul gun safety laws with sweeping reforms he talked about today. It was an emotional speech. Hi, everyone. I'm Gretchen Carlson. This is the real story on that and much more today. The president getting choked up as he spoke about victims of gun violence.
Our unalienable right to life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness, those rights were stripped from college kids in Blacksburg and Santa Barbara and from high schoolers at Columbine. And from first graders in Newtown. First graders. And from every family who never imagined that their loved one would be taken from our lives by a bullet from a gun. Every time I think about those kids, it gets me mad.
Well, the president says his new executive orders will not prevent all gun violence, but are common sense reforms. So here's what he's calling for. Licensing requirements for all gun dealers, including those online or at a gun show. Dealers must also now report lost or stolen firearms. States will also be able to easily share mental health information, and the president also adding more ATF and FBI staffers to expedite those background checks. Well, he also pushed to fund new gun safety technology. Judge Andrew Napolitano is a Fox News senior judicial analyst, and his job today is to analyze what the president did. So what do you make of it?
Well, some of what the president did is well within his authority. Can he hire more FBI agents? Yes. Can he dedicate more discretionary funds to mental health issues? Yes. Can he broaden the database of information that is accessed when doing background checks? Yes. But the most significant thing he has attempted to do, or will attempt to do when he signs an executive order later today, is to create a new crime by saying that if you sell as few as 2 guns or transfer as a gift as few as 2 guns, you are a dealer. And you therefore need a federal license. And if you transfer the guns as a gift without a federal license, you can be prosecuted. Why is that troublesome?
Right.
Because Congress 3 times rejected that proposal. So he is attempting to rewrite laws. Look, if he doesn't like the gun laws, he can argue to people, get your representatives to change them, but he can't change them on his own.
Okay, let's look at the number of criminal weapon convictions over the years, because he talked today about federal law, but there are laws that are already on the books that apparently are not being used, because when you look back in time, look at this, in the fiscal year 2015,
right,
there were 6,002 criminal weapons convictions, but they're down 5.8% from last year. They're down 15.5% from 5 years ago. They're down 34.8% from 10 years ago. And then in an anomaly, they're up a whole bunch from 20 years ago.
Okay, one of the things that he also promised to do today was to enforce federal gun laws. Gretchen, that is not newsworthy. It should not be newsworthy. His job has been to enforce federal gun laws since January 20th, 2009.
Right. Why would people be against dealers reporting lost or stolen firearms?
I don't know that people are against it, but it is very important the way laws are written in this country. They can only be written by the Congress. They cannot be written by the president. Many people may favor his proposals. He claims that the polls show that even gun owners favor his proposals. And I'm not in a position to dispute that, but of course you can find polls to support anything. But under our system, his job is not to take a poll and then decide what laws he's going to write. His job is to enforce the laws that Congress has written.
But every president does executive orders, executive actions, hundreds of them.
Yes.
So what will stop him? Will the courts stop him with it?
If he attempts to prosecute someone, if his Justice Department attempts to prosecute someone who failed to register as a dealer because they gave a gun to their nephew, that person and that person's lawyer will challenge the prosecution, and presumably this regulation that he came up with on his own will be invalidated by the courts.
Real quickly, the next president in office can wipe this out.
Absolutely. He could, the next president, he or she could ignore it or could rescind it.
All right. Judge, thank you much.
You're welcome, Gretchen.
Time now for my take. Could President Obama's actions actually backfire with regard to gun sales? In December 2015, there were 3.31 million background checks for firearms, the highest number of checks for any month on record. For the entire year of 2015, there were 23.1 million checks, higher than any other year on record. Since during President Obama's first year in office, there were 14 million background checks. That equates to a 65% increase in checks from his first year to his 7th. Comparatively, President George W. Bush's 8-year tenure showed a 42% increase in checks from 8.9 million in his first year to 12.7 in his last. There are no real numbers on the actual number of firearms sold in this country because the government does not track that stat. That includes activity between private parties because federal law requires checks only for sales from commercial vendors with a federal license. But with the huge increase in background checks, there's no doubt Americans are fearful their Second Amendment right may be hindered, and many are choosing now to act.